Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. Today I have some exciting news. I make quilt patterns, specifically foundation paper pieced quilt patterns. If you don't know what that is, check out my tutorial on how to actually put together one of those. But today I had a quilt store reach out to me and ask me to make them a pattern, specifically for one of their classes. I'm very excited. I've only ever done them for like individual people, and this is like an opportunity to kind of spread the feelers out. So I'm gonna take this also opportunity to show you how I make my patterns. I've shown it a couple times in shorts, but here is a long form of me putting together a paper pieced pattern. Alright, first up here, this is what I'm making. I am doing a Singer Featherweight in profile. I first need to clean up the drawing. For the program I use, you really want the drawing to be the perfect aspect ratio that you want, and also cleaned up. I had to just find a random image on the internet, so this is where I am. And now I have to remember the tools in Photoshop because it's been a minute. Where's the magic one? Magic, where did you go? There you are. Cool. We're just gonna add a layer and delete out all of the background. This is all I'm in Photoshop for, deleting out backgrounds. This is basically all I use Photoshop for in general. I don't do a whole lot of other things in Photoshop, but look, now I have a silhouette with no background. Ain't that great? So I want to make sure that this is positioned in the center-ish. It's close enough. Okay. Now, in the program that I use for making quilt patterns, this is called a Quilt Assistant, and it is free and wonderful, and obviously they don't sponsor me because it's a free program. I just think it's cool. I enter my thing. I am going to do, I don't actually know. We're gonna work off of 10.5-inch square. It's a pretty good size. I can change that size really easily later, so I'll ask my client before I send it off what size of a pattern they want. And this is what it looks like. Oh, gotta love graphic errors. Okay, I've literally never had this happen before, but I also don't know if I've ever done a transparent, like, PNG. So we're gonna reopen that in Photoshop and give it a white background. Maybe save it as a JPEG. Try that again. Normal Quilt Assistant. Let's see. Hey, no more glitching. Apparently, it does not like transparent background PNGs. I have somehow never done that before in all of the years I've been using this program. Learn a new thing every day. So, here we are in Quilt Assistant. You have your photo. Now, the first thing that I almost always do is turn on a 1-inch grid. Actually, in this case, I might do a 1/2-inch because this is a pretty small block. And that just gives me like the guidelines of this is where 1/2 inches are. And then you can see that my cursor is magneting to the dots. That's what all of these do. There is the grid one, there is a angle one, so then it will snap 2 degrees. Then there is, actually, that one's the corner one. That's the angle one. And then you can also set up symmetry. I'm not using any of those. I will eventually turn on the corner snap once I start having lines, but I like getting the grid because then I can just start drawing the lines. Every single line you draw is where there will be a seam. So this takes a little bit of knowledge on how stitching works to make sure that things go in the right order, and then you just start going. I always work from the outside and then work my way in. That makes the outside edges a lot cleaner, and I just keep going. So, and now that I have this like little base, I'm actually going to turn off the grid and I'm going to turn on snap to corner. I don't quite need that yet, but it's useful to have on. And this is when I just start like free-forming lines. So, like that one right there. If you turn on the angle one, you can get like more straight lines. Like right here probably should have one. And then, let's see. I know this little bit is important to show off, so I think I'm gonna do a couple of these lines. You can also see these are snapping 2.5 right now, and I need them to stop doing that. So I'm going to change this snap distance to 0.25. And then that way I can do the little dupe that I was trying to do. I'm trying not to make super tiny pieces, but also realized my image not straight. Dang it. Back to Photoshop. Make sure you have what you want. Now, in theory, should be able to... There we go. Okay, now that we are in here, I need to delete these lines. You delete by right-clicking. And now we add them back in. Also think I am immediately going to change this to 12.5. And now it's back to just adding the lines. I think this is looking like a good base so far. Sometimes it's a little easier if you get in with like the actual colors to kind of see better what it's looking like, especially if you make some creative liberties. Whoops. But I think I am so far liking the way that this is looking. That's a pretty good paper piecing. But I want to add a little bit more detail. We'll keep fiddling. I also think I'm going to put a spool on the little peg. I think that would be cute. Go back into design. I think I am liking how this is coming together. I am going to do a little bit more refinement and then send it off to my client to see what they think. Yeah, I like that a lot better. Alright, so first rendition, I'm going to send this off to my client and see what she thinks. And we are back. I have approval of the pattern, so let's get back into it. Alright, so I gave it a purple background solely so that actually shows up on the pattern pieces a little bit better. I'm sure they're going to use whatever fabric they want for that. Doesn't have to be purple. And made slight adjustments so these pieces were slightly bigger. They're still going to be pretty tiny. But she loves the pattern. We're going with it. Next step. So currently this is just like all of the stitch lines. And now, because of paper piecing, I have to name them all. And in this process, I also have to make sure that everything is sewable. So basically, I'm going to go around the piece and be like, you're going to start with this one, add these pieces on in this order, and then add that one on. And that is one chunk, because nothing else can be added to it without like a different piece being added on first. So I will just normally start from one spot, make my way up. I was sort of thinking about how to actually put this together as I was making it, which is why it's these nice square pieces. Sometimes I don't think that far in advance, and they're not nice square pieces, but today we are doing pretty good, and let me just rapidly go through and get this all named. And then I sometimes pause because I've come across something like this. This piece right here is by itself, and I don't love when pieces end up completely alone. This one over here is big enough that I was going to leave it, but I am actually going to add in an extra line here, and I might be able to rethink this so it goes across like that. And that way it's like slightly less paper piecing templates, slightly cleaner. There might be a way... Nah, that'll be fine. But this seems like a pretty simple one. Ooh, it's all named. Alright, I'm not seeing anything else. Like, I could technically send these all the way across, but I actually like that this doesn't have stitching in it. So sometimes you just accept that that's how that's going to be. This, again, a very large piece. I don't want lines going through it, and then the little edge pieces. Now I need to go back in and fix the coloring. So, I think almost everything is that. 6 different colors of fabric, some amount of pieces. The next step, once I have my whole pattern here, I need to start making like the directions and print out all of the templates and all of that fun jazz. I've already prepped to some extent the instruction manual I am putting together for this one, but I need to add some pictures, and then of course I have to get the fabric requirements and then fill in down here. So, next steps, let me just start this process. This is where I will say, this is why patterns take so much time and cost so much money, because they are not quick. If I had the block like sewn up, I would actually use a picture of that instead of the digital image, but in this case, she was on a bit of a time crunch, so my client is actually going to be the one that pattern tests this, which is fine. I just don't have the like made up pictures, so it'll look like this. I think that looks fine. I think I need to move my logo. We're gonna move it in the middle. This is also the first time I've actually like attempted to put a professional one of these together, because most of my custom ones, I have very basic like paper piecing tutorial that's also on my website if anyone wants to see it. Also a video. Mentioned that already. And that's normally what I send off with a very like, this is how you stitch your specific pattern together. It is just like words. But I am putting pictures together. I'm making this look like a booklet that you would actually find at a quilt store, because I want to be professional and I want more quilt stores to want my stuff. But now I have to get all of the fancy things. I love this program so much. It gives me all of the things that I could possibly need. These are like the fabric that I need. And I want to rewrite this in my own font. Little bit. Which means I think I'm just going to screenshot this and stick it down here. Okay, so most patterns are written by the like 1/8 of a yard. Of course, this gives it to me in inches. This should not be that hard. 8 inches, 9 is 1/4. Okay. I do also at this point go in and check to make sure that there's nothing weird, like an angle that shouldn't be there. Everything is square. Everything has all of the marks it is supposed to have. Good. And then, how do I want to do this? So I'm doing a new thing for the first time where I'm actually going to give like picture diagrams of how to sew this together in the end. And I'd love for it to have colors, but I can't actually color in the template. So I think the thing I just did will be good. And then I do want that guy. For reference, if you are curious, this is how tiny some of the pieces are. This is an 8.5 by 11 page. They're visible. That's something. I've actually seen patterns where the pieces are practically not visible, but they're still sewn on, which is crazy. But this is good. This is a good amount. Alrighty. Now that we got the rest of those going, And now it is time for me to create what I call my sewing math problem, because that is the easiest way for me to tell you how to sew it together. I just kind of look at this and go, okay, those need to be sewn together before they could be sewn to this one, and so on. Kind of the same way I numbered things. It's just another added step. But I write it out like D plus E plus F plus G plus O. And that would get you this whole chunk that then you would have to set aside, because you have to do this whole chunk before you could sew the two together. So then I do an equals D E F E O. And then in the next line, I'll do this little in parentheses thing if there's less than 3 pieces, because in real math, you do things in parentheses before you do the other bits, which means you have to put these 3 together before you add them to the bit you've been creating. That one is a very simple one. I have done ones that have over 100 different letters that I have to keep track of. And now for the part I've never done, we're gonna see if I can make this make sense in picture form. I just realized something. Mirror image. I need to... This is why this didn't make sense. And I think I dislike the way that I did this, so I'm gonna redo this to get all of it colored, because I forgot I could just use this and chop it up. So, here I go. No, I could probably work backwards and like carve off a little bit as I go. That might be easier. Whoa, that took me so much time, but I think this is clear instructions. We're gonna hope for the best and call it at that. Oh boy. Beyond that, well, I already exported the templates, and then they'll get this, they'll get my basic paper piecing tutorial, and then they're going to pattern test it. I will probably also make a version of this for myself at some point, because it's kind of cute. Like, it's a little featherweight. I'm kind of proud of myself. So, but yeah. And there you have it, a full pattern, start to finish. It took me in total about 4 to 5 hours of, like, mostly the instruction making. The patterns themselves I can whip out pretty quickly, and if I just export the cutting templates and paper piecing templates, I can go make them for myself very quickly. But when it comes to actually putting together a pattern, they take a lot of work, because I want to have a professional quality product at the end, and that takes time to make it look pretty. And also, I do my best to make them as clear as possible, because I want people to enjoy sewing. So, I've finished it. I am very excited to see what the quilt store makes of it. I'm looking forward to getting pictures of everybody's blocks from the class, but I will probably make myself one of them. This will be up on my website and my Etsy. Thank you for watching. I have some more videos right here. Subscribe, like, comment, do all of the wonderful things if you like what you are seeing and you want to support the growth of my channel. But with that, I will see you all the next time. Bye!